Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Between Two Brokers. Today on the podcast, we have a wonderful special guest. I'm going to let Erin introduce her.
Yes, this is Jenna Elliot with Fly Apparel. I butchered that before.
Free Fry.
Did a great job.
Words are hard.
Yes.
So welcome, Jenna.
Thank you.
We're so happy to have you because Fly is no small business. What you have built, I think, is incredible, and we can't wait to hear all about how it came to be and your role in it. And we didn't invite the other partners because they're men, and we just like to promote women. So, yes.
Good call.
So, welcome. Where should we start?
Well, we should cheers because we're doing what all successful women do.
Yes.
Drink during the day?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
so
messing with my misophonia.
So, yeah, start at the beginning. I mean, start at the beginning.
Just go.
Seriously.
Okay.
So you're from Montana. You have an apparel background. Start there.
Yes. Okay. So from Montana, my brother and I were born and raised in Montana in a family business in which my dad told us never get into a family business. And so,
what was his
obviously,
business?
They were in the apparel industry as well, but much different, sort of embellishment, print and embroidery sort of stuff. So my brother and I went very different paths out of college. So I went to school in Oregon, at University of Oregon, went through their sports business program, and then really went the corporate route. So I worked in product marketing at the Nike headquarters in Portland, Oregon for 8 or 9 years. And it was an awesome experience.
Yeah, I want to hear about that.
Yes, we'll get there. We'll get there. Met my husband out there. He was also working in product marketing in a different category. My brother stayed in Montana for school, and he was a fly fishing guide. So he guided all through college and then guided a couple years after college. And he's just very entrepreneurial minded. So he had this idea. He hated the shirts that he was guiding in. They were, I'm not going to name any brands, but plasticky, button down, vents, zippers, but just all the things that were bells and whistles that were super uncomfortable. And so he had this vision to create a performance shirt, sun protection that was super comfortable, almost as comfortable as your favorite old college t-shirt. So he ended up moving down to Charleston. He had a couple long winters in Montana and was just tired of the snow. My parents were down here. We have some family ties to the Carolinas. And he wanted to get Fly off the ground, but really had no experience to do so. So he tapped us. We were in our late 20s working at Nike, and I helped him for probably a year moonlighting to get this business off the ground, more on the product side of things. And I really had a passion for it. I was ready to leave all the red tape and the corporate environment and do something that was our own and something that was really built from the ground up. My husband, Erin, you know him,
yes.
Not so much. He very conservative. He's never left Oregon. He thought he was going to work at Nike for life. And he was very reluctant to potentially move to Charleston. So we vacationed out here that spring. And as the story goes, we were biking over on Sullivan's Island. It was 75 degrees, beautiful. We were at very smart. He took us to Home Team BBQ. And
That's where I tell all my clients to go, and then they buy real estate here.
Yes. And specifically bought us this very strong drink called a Gamechanger.
Yeah, my favorite.
We were 2 Game Changers in and all agreed to start the business together and move down. So we basically went back to Oregon, and a couple of months later quit our jobs on the same day and U-hauled cross country to Charleston with our English bulldog on my lap.
Okay,
So,
were you scared or were you pumped?
both. Yeah. It was a really big decision. We didn't have kids at the time. And I think that to get into Nike a little bit, I loved Nike. I mean, it was fantastic. In our 20s, we got to travel the world and interview professional athletes and work with amazing talent. But I had gotten to the point where it was a grind. We were working 80 hours a week, and there was just a lot of red tape once you got to a certain level. So I was sort of over it. I think that my husband wasn't quite there. So it was mixed feelings for sure.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting, like when you work for somebody else, and especially that, which sounds very, very glamorous, but like, what percentage of the time are you doing amazing stuff versus what percent of the time are you doing like stupid shit where you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's like killing me, and when it's the majority of the time that you're doing stupid shit, I mean, that's like, I just knew I had to work for myself. I was like, I cannot,
100%.
Yep.
I felt like my last job was 12 meetings a day.
Yep.
And it was me trying to convince 20 organizational leaders to, move in one direction. 19 of them would say yes, one of them would say no, and I was back to square one. And then I was every night back online, and I just didn't feel like I was accomplishing what I wanted to accomplish. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I don't blame Nike for that. I think when you get in a large organization,
Totally.
It's just tough.
Yep.
And I had such a desire to be the decision maker and be nimble and be able to just have a creative idea and fly with it.
That's awesome.
So it started with just like a single fishing shirt or a line of fishing shirts, or not just fishing, but kind of outdoor apparel.
Yep.
For men?
For men.
Okay.
Yes. So we were very fortunate in that we had a contact through my parents who helped us get the supply chain side of things off the ground. And we were looking for some different materials that would have some performance built in, but still be really comfortable. And she found bamboo. And that was really for us, after wear testing for about 18 months, that was really the ticket. We felt like it performed really well. It offered sun protection, but it was buttery soft. Mm-hmm. So it started with one, and then we expanded out to 3 or 4. I think year 2, we introduced women's, which was something I was personally really passionate about. Sure. And it grew from there.
And where did the name come from?
It was between Free Fly and Naked Fly, and I'm so glad that we went with Free Fly. Yeah. I mean, just thinking about naked, you can't take that seriously.
Yeah, and then the fly comes from fly fishing.
That's right. So we started in fly fishing and really have expanded into outdoor at this point, but have kept the name.
Yeah.
So what is the whole product line now?
It's a big product line. We have tops, we have bottoms. Actually, our shorts are some of our top selling products now. So really breezy, lightweight, easy, quick drying items to throw on, both on the men's and women's side. We have fleece, accessories, hats, tees, things like that, and then potentially expanding into some heavier layers in the next year or 2.
Cool. For those Montana winters.
That's right.
Yeah. Talk about like how Nike set you up to be able to like do this, or I don't want to bash Nike. I mean, they're a top company in the world for a reason, but and what you had to like rewrite or figure out on your own. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think so many benefits came from Nike. I think to start with the back half of your question, it was really, really tough to transition. And I think in our heads, we felt like we had all the experience. This is going to be easy, no big deal. And in reality, those first couple years, we were so narrow and deep in one area at Nike. And as an entrepreneur with no employees, you have to wear a million hats. And you guys know this, right? It's hard. And we, pinching pennies, didn't have hardly any resources. So we're literally doing podcast interviews one day and cleaning the toilet the next day. You run the gamut of just being gritty and figuring it out.
Did you guys bootstrap it, like all your own money?
Yep.
Wow.
It was all bootstrapped until we got a line of credit from the bank to help fund inventory.
Wow.
So it was a grind, and there was a couple times where my husband and I looked at each other and felt like, did we make the right decision or not? But that being said, I think on the positive, Nike, especially on the product merchandising and marketing side, they're best in class. So they really gave us so many skills to be able to build the business. And then my last foray at Nike was in digital. And so I've now been able to transition that to run our DTC, which is the majority of our business. And so that's been a great experience.
Yeah. Well, and I know you're big fans of Nike because I've seen Austin's shoe collection in your
He's got a shoe collection, size
closet.
14s.
So what year did y'all move to Charleston and like get this going?
We moved in 2013.
Okay.
Yep.
And was there a moment when you feel like, when you stopped looking at each other and going like, did we make a bad mistake? Like, you know, how long was it into the business, and was there a moment when you looked at each other and you were like, phew, we did it. Not that we've made it, but this is okay. This is going to be okay.
That's a great question. I think for me, when we really started scaling DTC, that
And what is DTC?
direct to consumer,
Okay.
that felt so good because that was really, we were hanging our hat on that as an opportunity. So my brother started selling 100% wholesale, and people wanted to print their logos on our shirt, and it wasn't really a brand. And so when we started thinking about what is aspirational behind our brand and how can we, in a really authentic way, how can we inspire people, that life on the water, disconnecting, there's so much to be inspired in that area. And so we started running ads that really captured that lifestyle, and they started clicking. To me, that was really exciting.
Yeah. The logo and was that all in-house?
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah. And the branding and the ads and everything. And that's kind of what you head up?
The advertising for sure, all the paid advertising. Yep.
Yeah.
I think we paid $100 for our logo.
Whoa.
Were the ads Johnny's ads?
Johnny was definitely in some of the ads, yes.
So that's like around the time when things started to change for you, I guess. Okay, so I have a question about the tough times, or in the beginning, when you guys are like totally stressed and the two people that you're looking at and or blaming, I don't know, are your husband and your brother. So how did you manage those relationships how did you manage yourself? How did you respect them? Like, talk about that a little bit and working with your family.
Family business is hard, and I don't think there's any way around that. We've had to reframe how we look at family business between the three of us, and we're very fortunate in the sense that we are three very different personalities, which that sounds like a negative, but the way that we look at it is it's such a benefit to be able to make good decisions. So my brother is very entrepreneurial. He's big picture. He always says that I'm the forest, not the tree. And my husband is very detail oriented with everything. I fall somewhere in the middle. And to have those three personalities, we really feel like has led to the success that we've seen. But we have to be really honest with each other and have the hard conversations and address things. And the times that we've let frustrations fester has really been probably the lowest points for us personally in the business. So we now have a weekly lunch meeting and we lay everything out on the table, and it works really well for us.
I think like any relationship, you can never let resentment build. Like you have to just like lay it out on the line immediately. And I think Erin and I have gotten there. And I think a lot of people just don't learn that. Did you ever who did you gang up on the other one with? Was it your brother or your husband that you picked?
So this is really funny because everyone always says, well, I'm sure you and your husband are always on one side and your brother's on the other. And interestingly, it's normally always my brother and I.
I can totally see that. You guys grew up together, so there's a lot of like you think the same way, right? Yes.
Mm-hmm. But we do give my brother a hard time because once a month he comes to us with an opportunity of a lifetime. And
That's me.
Some of the opportunities have been great, and other times we're like, we can't afford that, or no way. There's just no way.
Yeah.
We can't afford it.
Yeah.
That's all I ever hear.
My favorite word is no.
No is a complete sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you hired your first employee, was that like, what was it for?
It was to work in the warehouse
Which is here in Charleston.
Which was here in Charleston. Okay. Yep, and just be pulling orders for us. So the early days, every order we would hand fold, and then we would tie with fishing line, and we'd write a thank you note in the order.
Wow.
And we wanted to put those special little things and include those. And so we hired someone to help us pack orders. We've since expanded to a 3PL.
Presentation is everything. I love that.
Yeah, right?
That is so cool.
Yeah. But what's been really cool is we have a few employees who literally started like packing orders for us and counting inventory for us, who were fresh out of college, who we just saw potential in, and now have like built their way into our headquartered team and are doing an amazing job. So it's fun to see that. Yeah. And early on, we just couldn't afford any director level hires. So we always hired for attitude and aptitude.
Mm-hmm. And how many employees do you have now?
Just under 50.
Wow.
Damn.
Yep.
And so I remember last time I was in the mountains, I was at the Highland Hiker, and there's this whole section of free fly stuff, and I was like taking pictures and sending it to you guys, and talking to the manager had a free fly hat on. He was like, "It's my favorite fishing gear," and blah blah blah. When you guys were first starting, was it like y'all were driving your inventory to stores and were like, "Hey, you should really try this"? And so, I mean, was it just like door knocking, so to speak?
Pretty much, yes. And that's really what my brother was responsible for doing. And we did get our foot in the door through doing some customization, letting stores put their logos on the product to start out with. And then we were able to establish a small rep force. Southeast is our biggest territory still.
Yeah.
So they've been able to rep us they're independent, so they rep us as well as a number of other brands.
Southeast, but are you all over the United States pretty much?
Yes.
Any other countries?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Maybe coming soon.
Yeah.
So was there like a big break, or was it just like truly just kind of like this snowball effect?
It was more of a snowball effect. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It took years, and It's always interesting. I'm sure you guys hear this too, where everyone approaches you and they're like, "Wow, overnight success."
Yeah. Everybody wants to be a real estate agent.
Absolutely
not.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, no. I cried.
It was a grind. And I think we were very naive to think, we're going to go from working 80 hours a week to spending our afternoons on the boat in Charleston. That did not happen.
But that is the gift. Truly. I mean, I remember Erin and we went to Charlotte together and like planned our whole business. And she was like extra naive. I had already started a business and like knew how hard it was going to be, and took her husband to dinner and proposed and said, "I know you know how hard it's going to be." Mm-hmm. She's really excited. But like that being so naive is like, if you knew how hard it was going to be, you would never fucking do it.
Totally. 100%.
And most people give up, they quit. And for me, like, I just don't think that way. Like, it's when there is a goal or a vision, I will 100% see it through. Like, I don't even care. People would come to me and say, "Well, I can't believe you signed this lease at the cigar factory. What if you fail?" Literally never crossed my mind.
I won't.
Yeah. Why would that happen?
Yeah.
So I think that like a lot of people, I mean, that's what people who are considering being entrepreneurs have to decide is like how, it's the grit thing. It's
yes.
like, Erin has it. I saw that in her immediately. And because you were her client.
Oh yeah. We need to talk about that later.
Yes. Yes. And that was the coolest thing, was that like when you see that in somebody, and I'm sure you know that about your brother and your husband, it's like you guys are not going to stop at anything but success. So then you really don't have to worry, even though you go through those hard times.
100%. And I think there was just enough of us not knowing, like just being naive, that, in hindsight, if we would have had that 2020 vision, would we have done it? I don't know. Mm-hmm. But just being gritty and being able to see it through, it's such a different accomplishment when it's your own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So obviously there were a lot of challenges in the beginning, and 2003, so 9 years.
Yeah.
I would say probably at least the first half of those. But well, let's not paint the picture that you are on the boat every day and lounging by the pool all the time. Like, what are some of the challenges that you're currently facing, even though you guys are like this huge brand now? It's not.
Yeah. So I will say, sort of back to the last comment, we made every mistake in the book. Truly, we made every mistake in the book. And I think I look back and am thankful that we made those mistakes that were $1,000 mistakes and not $1 million mistakes, right? So our challenges went from, how do we get our name out there? How do we expand our product line? What are our marketing tactics? Which some of those conversations are still in play. But now we're looking at, how do we hire an executive team? And how do we rise out of the day-to-day? And how do we grow from, right? How do we grow from a Southeast brand that's well-known to a national brand that's well-known?
How do we just a fishing line?
Definitely.
Yes.
I think one of my big personal passions is our women's business. I think we have great women's product, but I can't tell you how many times a friend comes up to me and says, oh my gosh, I just bought some Free Fly for my dad and my brother and my husband and my son. And I'm like, what about for you?
Yeah.
And there's this perception that it's only a fishing company. And we've really expanded to be great product outdoors, great product out on the water for both him and her.
Yeah. I will say I only own your long sleeve shirts, but that's because I don't do the sun and I always wear long sleeves.
Sure.
But they are so soft and they're just my favorite.
What is the number one product for men and women? Number one bestseller for each?
Number one on the men's side is our men's lightweight hoodie. So it's the full sun protection. It has, it's long sleeves, super lightweight, super buttery soft. And then it has the hood if you want to put that up for sun protection as well. On the women's side, it's actually, believe it or not, I was very against this product for several years, but it's our women's skort. But it's a breezy material and you can wear it in a ton of different settings. I wear it for tennis sometimes and I love it. So that's our number one women's product.
Cool.
Are you making kids stuff?
We do. We do. We basically do miniature versions of our men's and women's for kids, and it's done phenomenally well.
Yeah. Talk about the give back that the company does to the community, because I remember when we closed on your house, you were getting ready to go on this fun fish sampling thing with DHEC.
Yes.
Right? Not
yes.
DHEC. No. Who is it?
It's a SCORE program through South Carolina, the state of South Carolina.
DNR. That's what I meant.
DNR, yes. So we have 3 silos of give back, and Austin, Tanner, and I are each in charge of one. So my personal passion is around conservation, and so let me go through all 3 first. We have conservation. My husband heads up humanitarian, which is a lot of at-once relief, honestly. They work with some cool organizations locally, like Green Heart, but they'll do relief if there's a hurricane or, someone needs clean water overseas due to a natural disaster. And then my brother leads our Next Gen committee. And basically what Next Gen is for kids. I mean, the stats of Charleston kids in our city who have not gotten out to even see the beach, see the water, it's absolutely heartbreaking. So being able to get those kids off screens and get them in nature is really important to us. For conservation and the fish sampling, we do a ton of fun volunteering, and it's something that as a brand we feel so strongly about, to be able to get out on the water, to be hands-on, and then of course there's a monetary donation arm of that as well. But we're out probably monthly doing fish sampling or bagging oyster shells, creating new oyster reefs, planting Spartina grass, and it's just been really fun, and truly it's a bigger reason why for people to come to work.
Yeah, we need to get on that. Sorry, I'm bouncing around here, but you said the challenge is going to be hiring an executive team, and on a very much smaller scale. We have been talking about doing that too, and I think just like hiring a broker in charge so that Stacy can sell full time, and we're bringing in Tori to help with marketing so that I can focus on selling. But it's, for me, I wonder if this is the same challenge. It's just like giving up control, because you've been the one to birth this baby all along, and it's like you're turning it over to somebody else. And how do you do that? What does that look like?
Yeah, we've had a lot of those conversations. And one of our philosophies for hiring anyone is they can't have an ego. But for us, it's been checking our ego at the door to say, okay, we have to forgo some of that control. We can't make every decision. Some of the decisions they make, we may not agree with. And it's hard. It's really, really hard, and it's biting your tongue. But ultimately, we're really trying to hire people who are smarter than us, who can, in their designated areas, who can take the business to the next level. And it's wrapping your mind around what that looks like and really being prepared. I think it's preparing yourself more than it is even preparing that individual.
Are you
I'm
as
prepared.
much of a control freak as Austin is?
No. No, I'm not. And I think that I'm kind of one of those, like, it's all going to be okay.
Me
it's
too.
all going to work out, right?
Yeah.
We're going to
Yeah.
figure this out, and really challenging myself to look at the highest level from a strategic standpoint. Like, where do I need to be involved? What are the needle movers in the business? And forgoing some of those day-to-day decisions.
Mm-hmm. Have you faced any challenges that you think, I don't want to harp on like huge gender differences, but like maybe had Tanner or Austin gone to this meeting with this other company instead of you, it would have turned out differently? Because for a sporting, like an outdoorsy, it's kind of seen as like a men's industry, I guess.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, please. But
Definitely. I think the example that comes to mind, which has happened multiple times, especially living in the South, is oftentimes it's the three of us meeting together, but we'll meet with a banker, we'll meet with a lawyer, and we're in a room
only
together.
talk to the men.
Exactly.
That always happened
I get
with my
no
ex-husband.
eye contact.
Yep.
I get no eye contact, and I really respect my brother and my husband, because before I say a word, they'll say, we're not working with that person. But it is so infuriating to me.
Yeah.
Like, they almost treat me as if I'm the note taker in the room.
right, you're the secretary there. Yeah.
It just blows my mind. And then layer fishing industry or outdoor industry on top of that, and you get some good old boys.
Yeah.
But I feel like you just have to have thick skin and handle it, and I'm not afraid to speak up. We also have 2/3 female employees, which I love.
Yeah.
They inspire me every day, and they're just badasses. So that's really fun.
Yeah. I would say this hasn't happened to me lately, but when we started Smith Spencer, and for the first 3 or 4 years, when someone would say, "Oh, what firm do you work for?" and I would be like, "Oh, I'm Smith Spencer," and they would hear my last name and they would be like, "Oh, so your husband?" And I'm like, "My husband has zero to do with this fucking business. Absolutely nothing." Like, our last names are the same, but we do not work together. And they would always be like, "What's it like to work with your husband?" I'm like, "I don't." Why do you assume that?
Right?
It's maddening.
Well, it was also funny, on a side note, a neighbor was walking by our new house that you sold us, and they're like, "How did you get this house? It wasn't on the market." And I said, "We have a great realtor." And they said, "Well, who's your realtor?" And I said, "Erin Spencer." And they said, "Oh, can I get his contact?" I'm like, "It's a female. That is ERIN."
Oh my God.
Let me spell it for you.
Well, where you live, that market is dominated by men. It's just really interesting. I do want to talk about that for a second. So everybody is always interested in people's personal real estate tastes. So when you moved to Charleston and you guys were broke and everything, where have you lived in Charleston? And tell us kind of the iterations and what the experience has been like.
Well, our first experience was terrible. We bought a house sight unseen from Portland.
Before people did that.
Yes.
Now it's normal.
Yeah. But my brother saw the house, and it was in, he's like, this is the area you want to be in. And it was right off rifle range. And so on the drive out, we had our house in Portland sold, and we were 2 days from closing on our house in Charleston. We're in Nashville, and we get a call that our house in Portland fell through. So we're super bummed about that. Then 12 hours later, we get a call that there was a lien against the seller's business in Charleston and that we can't buy that house anymore. So both houses fell through within 12 hours of each other, and we were very close to closing, so it was very dramatic. So we needed something immediately. It had to be dog friendly. We wanted to be in a certain area. I think there was 2 listings. So we ended up finding a house that was being renovated in Old Village to live in. Just the outside was being renovated. So we ended up in Old Village to start. We were there for 9 months. We bought a house in Cooper Estates from there, just a small brick cottage, which was great, but on a cut-through street. And then from there, we went back to Old Village, which we liked. It was a great little neighborhood.
What were your favorite things about living in Old Village? Because everybody wants to live there.
Okay.
So what are the best things, and then what are the misconceptions?
Oh, I have a whole list for you. I think the best things are the school is phenomenal. I love how many places you can golf cart to. And we have kids. We have 2 boys, a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. So we, especially during the pandemic, we just all we would do is go golf cart and try to catch fish down at Pitt Street Pier. But to be able to jump on a golf cart and go out to eat is so fun. Tons of young families, which I think is really fun, but can start to create some dynamics.
Yep.
Unfortunately, our house was on a bit of a cut-through street, so we would get some pretty bad traffic. So that was more of a situation for us specifically, not the whole neighborhood. But you do get some streets that are busy. I don't have a ton of cons, outside of just the fact that you're very condensed with a lot of young families, and I think that can be really fun, but it can be sort of hard at times as well.
Well, it's insular. I mean, and it's not the only neighborhood like that.
Yeah.
Okay, and so where did you guys transition to? Where did Erin bird dog a house for you?
So Erin, on her bike.
Oh my God. Of course.
Erin, you have to tell the story. I can't do it justice.
She was wearing a Free Fly shirt and a hat,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Of course.
I like riding my bike to Sullivan's. It's beautiful and nice. But we actually met for the first time at Vintage Coffee, and kind of sat down and went through their list. And I remember not being on a busy street was a big deal for you because you had 2 houses on busy streets. But Jenna's just kind of given me the list of what's important to them parameter-wise. I don't know that Austin said very much that meeting. But I don't even know how long it was between when we first met and when I found this house. But there were a couple of times I just went over to Sullivan's Island because that was their Old Village, and Sullivan's Island were their 2 choices. And I would just ride my bike over, and I would ride around, and I would dictate to myself the addresses that looked like houses that she would be attracted to.
You knew my aesthetic.
So style,
Yes.
that was the most important thing.
Yeah,
Yes,
newish, not on a busy street, pool, yard, white,
Yeah, clean aesthetic.
clean, beachy.
Beachy.
Yeah.
I like natural. My house is very similar. Lots of plants
Yeah.
and natural woods and white.
Yeah. And so, but just because it looks that way on the outside doesn't mean squat. I don't know how the bathroom count and all that. So then I would go back and reference either MLS or tax records. And if it checked all the boxes then I would call the last buyer's agent that sold the house. Or if it had never been an MLS, then I would do the tax records and just try to call the owners. And finally, one of them took. This guy he was like, I got something for you. And I was like, fantastic. Which one is it? Because I had actually called him about 3 different ones. Because like you said, Sullivan's Island, the agents that sell out there, there's 3 or 4 of them, and they kind of dominate that market.
Yeah.
But he was actually great to work with, and it turned out to be the perfect house.
Yes.
Okay, so everybody wants to live on Sullivan's at some point. What is it like? What has been your experience there? I mean, what is it actually like? Do you go to Home Team and have Gamechangers all the time?
Obviously, yes. I think it's very quiet, which part of me really appreciates
So
that.
much more quiet than old.
Much more quiet.
And is it mostly primary residents around you, or is it a mix of like second homeowners and vacation homes? And
I think it's mostly primary, and surprisingly.
now, yeah, post COVID, yeah.
But she was also very specific about what side of the island she wanted to be on, not the business district, because that is not quiet, especially not in the summer. And it's, I mean, cars all over the place, people everywhere.
Yes.
So the street, in the area of the island, you are very quiet.
Yes,
Yeah.
which I really appreciate that. I mean, I'm also very extroverted, so sometimes I see a young family and I'm like, hey, hey, we have kids too. So I wouldn't say people are as friendly as I'm used to, but I don't think that is them trying to be unfriendly. I just think people are private. That's the vibe I get.
And I also, this is like a big thing about downtown Charleston too, that I have experienced, is that, you know, it's like those people are established there and they already have their friends and they already have their relationship. When you move to a place like Daniel Island, everybody is all like relatively new. And so you just have more of that. And I just feel like Sullivan's, I mean, when you think about the general vibe of it, is very low key. That's why people want to be there. You have a lot of celebrities and, you know, famous people and stuff. And so I think that that's kind of how people are. They're just like, you know, don't fuck with me.
Yeah, not a lot of turnover out there.
Yes. This is a funny aside, but our son switched schools, our older son, from MPA to Sullivan's Island. And we didn't know. I think I know one family at Sullivan's Island Elementary. So first day we walk in, and I felt like I was more nervous than our 7-year-old. Walk into first grade, and there's one other family in the class, and it happens to be Danny McBride and his daughter. Like,
That's cool.
All right.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
And Saturdays and Sundays, I mean, are y'all like riding your bikes to the beach, golf carting, walk? I mean, you take advantage of living at the beach.
Yes. I mean, back to the conservation piece. We love being outside. Our kids are fishing, crabbing. We're at the beach. Honestly, I don't think in the last 5 weeks we've left on the weekends. It's just been phenomenal. And then to be able to truly walk to the business district, you know, we're having our meals or happy hours there, and that's really fun as well.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any cons other than just maybe the privacy a little bit?
Or the drive downtown.
I mean,
Traffic.
it's a little bit of a further drive because our office is downtown on Upper Meeting Street, but I thought the bridge was going to be much more of a factor. And knock on wood, we have not caught the bridge being up once since living there.
Cool.
And the traffic has not been a factor at all, given we're not leaving on the weekends right now. So I'm sure that at times it's going to be frustrating, but it has not been an issue.
And you're happy with the school? I know that was a concern of yours.
Yes. So far, so good.
Yeah, I know it's only been a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little early to tell.
Yes.
Well, plug Free Fly's website, Instagram handle, you know, whatever.
Okay. Yes. Free Fly. We are at freeflyapparel.com, and Instagram handle is the same, at Free Fly Apparel. And come give us a follow.
Yeah.
We're going to inspire you to get outside on the water.
I love that.
Yeah, and Nathan and Whitney are clients of mine. So
Two of
feel
my
like-
absolute favorites.
Right. So I feel like Smith Spencer should be the official real estate brokers of Free Fly. Just saying.
We have a little internal battle going in the office, but I agree.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This was really a great conversation, and congratulations on all your success.
Thank you.
Definitely
Much
that.
appreciated. This was really fun.
All right.